Hello, everyone. I am Brady Bridges, and I'm the broker and owner of Reside Real Estate here in Fort Worth, Texas. I want to welcome you to another episode of Real Talk with Reside Real Estate. We are a top producing team here in Fort Worth, Texas, and we want this podcast to be a resource for anyone looking to learn more about real estate and the great city of Fort Worth, Texas.
Hello, this is another episode of Real Talk with Reside Real Estate. Today I have Shana Hutson with me. She is a native Texan who grew up in Arlington and still lives there. After retiring from Arlington ISD, she launched Clover Lane Design to pursue her passion for decorating and envisioning better ways to use space in homes. She enjoys the creative aspect of curating a beautifully decorated room and has focused her business on home staging and paint consultations. Shana has been married for over 30 years and enjoys spending time with her 2 sons, new daughter-in-law, and her 2 dogs. Thanks for coming in.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
So I thought you would be a really good interview to have because, especially right now, spring season's in, the market's getting hot, a lot of people selling their homes. So kind of just go on from tell us more about Clover Lane Design and kind of how you got into the home staging and this business.
Okay. So I would say kind of this has always been like a little passion of mine. When I was in high school, I knew I wanted to either be a teacher or I wanted to be an interior designer, and teaching won out. And it was great, for raising my boys and stuff, summers off and holidays off with them. But every time I had a holiday, I was doing a project at my house. And this was kind of already something that I did, like even as in elementary school, I'd rearrange furniture in my bedroom and do things like that. And so what was a hobby became more of a passion as I knew I was going to retire from teaching pretty young, actually. And so I started kind of researching, like, what do I want to do? And then my son actually got into real estate, or knew he was going to. And so about a year before I launched my business, he got his real estate license. And so we spent a lot of time together going to open houses and looking at properties and things. So eventually that's what I just decided to do. Yeah, and I love it.
Awesome. So is it just Clover Lane? Is it just you, or do you have a team of people that you work with?
It's just me. I have a few people that I call my assistants when I need extra help on a project, but just me.
So when we talk about staging, obviously that can be a whole span of things. So can you kind of define for the audience what staging is?
Sure, yeah. Because a lot of people think it has to do with theater and plays and things like that when you just say staging. So home staging, it's kind of, though, it's setting the stage for the buyers. And so what would that look like? So we have to prepare the house to look its best for buyers. And so that includes a lot of depersonalizing and, of course, cleaning and storing things so that we can kind of present it in its best light, especially online with photos when, buyers can just swipe to the next house if they don't like the look. So it's a marketing tool is what it is, big time.
So what do you see the impact? A lot of times when we go to these meetings and we talk about staging and, us as agents, we go into homes, obviously you never know what condition the home's going to be in. So what impact does it have when you go into one of these homes that does have a lot of need for someone like yourself? Like, I'm sure you probably track the results of what, when you do work on a house, how quick it sells. Do you track any of that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I do. Probably not as much for documentation as maybe I used to, but oh yeah, and they sell quickly, almost always. Of course, pricing is everything too. So the ones that will sit on the market a little bit longer usually are overpriced, or maybe there's something about that neighborhood, that's just not ideal. And so in those cases, for you, it's location, right? So as long as that's good and pricing is good, they sell really fast. But the thing is, we all, including me, we all live with more things in our house.
Oh, yeah.
Because we collect things. People give us things. It's not a priority to, take things away all the time because we're living life. So we always live with more stuff than we did.
You never realize how much stuff you have until you're about to move.
Oh, exactly. And so when
we have this.
I know. And so when I go into people's homes and I start with maybe a consultation let's take all these things off the top of your cabinet. And they look up there and they're like, oh, that's going to be really dusty. I'm like, yeah, and it is. And that's what people who come in, they think about, like, oh, there's a lot of stuff in here, and I'm totally distracted by the amount of things in here. So what staging does is it helps that buyer come in and see the home, the features of the house, instead of being distracted by the seller's things.
Sure.
So
in this process, like, we're going to go really basic. So if you're somebody thinking about selling your home, would you say to reach out to someone like you first before they talk to an agent, or get with an agent and then have them coordinate that type of, or either? I mean, what do you work with people? Who are your main clients? Are you working with agents and brokers mainly that are referring you business, or are you also going direct to?
So I would say probably 97% of the time I'm working with agents.
Okay.
The sad thing is, when I work with sellers who just contact me, by themselves, those are usually the people who are trying to do a for sale by owner, or they're trying to go with, I won't name names, but other,
Sure,
businesses that, they kind of, or I don't know, I think they're a little, sneaky or something about how they sell those houses. And then the owner puts all this work into staging and stuff, and then maybe it doesn't even really pay off for them. So I would say go through your agent first, and maybe ask your agent, hey, do you offer any service to help me with home staging? Because a lot of agents will, or some say, well, at least I can connect you with someone. And so I think that's a great starting point.
well, and I think it's really important, because I feel like a lot of times when we go in and we're talking to people, we say that we want to put the your best foot forward. The first days you go on market, it needs to look the best that it can be. So I think it's very important, and especially if you're an agent or a new agent, it's really hard sometimes to take on these expenses. But as a fiduciary, spending this money for your clients, in the end, it's bringing them more money. It's an expense that you make your money back on as an agent, and then it also tenfolds the client experience, I think, as well.
Right. Boy, I'll add to that. One thing I say is, if you're already an agent who excuse me.
Oh, you're fine.
If you're already an agent who pays for professional photography, then you would kind of like to photograph rooms that are worthy of that, right? Yes. Not just someone's like jumpy countertop, right? So I just think it's a value that you can add to sell yourself to be an agent, just kind of a step above just someone who is an average.
It's a value add.
Exactly.
Right? And the past 2 years, the market's been so busy that a lot of people haven't had to really provide a lot of additional value to sell these homes. So I think it's a great service. So you had mentioned to me before we got on that, like, you don't do the furniture part. So kind of describe the services you do offer and what those look like.
Okay. So generally we start with a consultation where I go and meet with them up to 2 hours in the house, and that can just be a walk and talk where I'm explaining what I recommend they do, and they're taking notes, and I'm always really nice about it. And I say, like, I'm going to give you a thorough list, and then you can choose to do all, some, or none of what I recommend. The more you do, the better it is. And so usually people are really glad that I'm coming in and giving them, some suggestions. And then they start their work. And then if they want me to come back, then I can do like a 2-hour photo styling, say right before pictures, let's say, just to kind of tweak the things, They've done the bulk of the homework, and then I'm doing all the icing on the cake, And then another service I offer is, sometimes people have, a wall of personal photos, let's just say. And when I ask them to take all those away so that we're not having people like my husband trying to figure out who lives there, and being distracted, by the time they take all those things and pack them away, now they have a big blank wall, let's just say. So if they don't want to go out and buy, a piece of art or something that can fill that wall, they could rent accessories and plants and things like that from me. So those are basically the services. The other one that I would add is sometimes they need a paint, a repaint or something, and I do paint consultations as well. And if I'm in a consultation and they just need like one paint color, I just do it while I'm there at no extra charge.
So how would you say the home, there's probably a mix of this, like homes. So staging and interior design, what are the differences and how do they kind of tie together for you and what you do?
Yeah. So
I'm sure you have to keep up to date on like all the trend, everything that's
I do. Yeah. And I actually do e-design because, that's not what agents want to have me, when someone moves into a new house, maybe they want, help with design, decorating. But the difference is when you are staging your house to sell, you are trying to appeal to the masses, right? And so we don't want it to be like plain vanilla, right?
Sure.
But we need it to be not so personalized that it turns off buyers. Whereas in interior design, I mean, you're making it exactly the way you want it to be. You don't care about, what, someone that might be moving to Fort Worth, Texas cares about because you're living there and you don't care. So it just depends on the audience, basically.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Especially I find as you get higher and higher price points that you're dealing with on the home prices, they become much more personalized because they turn into custom homes, and people will do crazy things and they're paying for walls. So I think it's a great service. So you kind of touched on it, but so when you are doing one of these projects, you're using the client's own, they're using their own furniture, their own items. Do you ever see any value or give consult on, like, I know there's virtual staging, right?
Right.
Have you ever helped with any of that type of project if somebody doesn't want to put furniture in, but they want to do virtual?
So yes and no.
I'm just curious because I'm not a huge fan of virtual staging, so
Right.
just
Right.
wonder what your thoughts are.
So I've had a couple of people do like a hybrid where I've come in and like styled a bookcase or something, and then they worked with a virtual staging company who added some furniture in the picture. So it's always a vacant home, right? I will say one time, my son and I, we went to see an open house nearby, kind of in the TCU area, and it looked great online. I was like, oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, let's go check it out. It's an older neighborhood, but a brand new house. And when we got there, there was absolutely no furniture in the whole house, and they had pictures of the virtual staging in some of the rooms on an easel or something.
Oh, yeah.
And so here's my thought on that. It gets people in the house, but then instantly when they get there, they have a feeling of disappointment the moment they walk in the door. And so I think that's the negative of that virtual staging. And some other home stagers will say even more than that, like it doesn't look real or whatever. I think it can look really good, but I just don't want my buyers to have an instant feeling of disappointment when they get to your house, let's say,
I think, I just had a listing over in Wedgwood, and the young lady that lived there, you would have thought she was in interior design. I told her that everyone that came to that house, it makes an impact. When you have a house staged well, they can envision what they want their house to look like, even though it may never look like that.
Right. Right. It's an envision, not right. Yeah.
So do you have to have any certifications or trainings to kind of get into this business, or do you have any yourself?
Yeah. Okay. So no, you don't. You don't have to have any certification. However, when I went through my training and stuff, I did get certified. I think it's really good to get certification. Number one, it's just like another thing on your resume, right? But also, you really...
What is that certification?
So you can get it through different avenues, I guess. Mine was from Home Staging Resource in San Diego. So I did a 21-day online course that took 90 days to get it all, because, you can listen to it all, but then you have to implement things,
Sure.
But it's setting up your business and everything. And then... resources, like I joined Real Estate Staging Association, which is a national association, and then the local one is the Dallas chapter.
Okay.
So that's a great place to network with other stagers. There's some other associations that you can join.
A lot of creative people.
Yes, but it helps knowing, like, okay, what are you doing, and what can I learn from you? And so I've had a couple of mentors that I've worked with there, and I was president of that chapter in 2021, made a lot of good friends, and just more resources. Like if I need help on a stage, I can call people, So I am certified, but you don't have to be certified.
So you think you ever find yourself going into the furniture side of things, like doing actual furnishing rooms, like complete staging?
Even though I've done that a little bit, have decided not to. I think if I were 30 years old, I'd probably do it, but it's just something that I don't.
Did they just go buy a ton of furniture and store it, or are there firms that you can go like rent this stuff from as a stager?
So yeah, you can do furniture rental through local places, or sometimes stagers, coordinate with other stagers in the area and rent from them. I had a good friend in Fort Worth here. We would do some projects together, so I've done some vacants, but it's just not something I want to do. I mean, it's fun to do it. I don't want the inventory. I don't want to pay for a warehouse, all that stuff. But yeah, you can buy furniture at wholesale if you're part of like a buying group. You can go to Dallas Market. You can order things, but it's a whole other animal that.
Oh, I'm sure warehouse.
Oh, yeah.
So let's just say that you come to us and you suggest us, okay, they may need more. Do you have people we can refer for those services?
Yes, absolutely. Like I was talking about that RISA group that I'm a part of. I know several people, and they really like doing all the vacant staging and owning their furniture and all that stuff. And I'm just like, more power to you. You send me some occupied referrals, I'll send you these, and we'll, call it good.
That's great. Yeah. It's good to be in those groups, and I'm part of some coaching group. Having resources not only locally but across the country that can help you keep up to date on everything happening. It's very, very useful.
It is.
So what are the biggest mistakes you're seeing? Like when you go into these homes and people are prepping, what are the biggest mistakes you're seeing homeowners make in getting their house ready to sell?
Well, it depends, of course. Sometimes they're working with an agent who knows you need to do some things, right? And so sometimes they clear away too much stuff. So now their kitchen countertops are completely clear, right? And it just looks kind of, cold. And then sometimes they're not taking away enough stuff. And I can relate to that because we moved about 5 years ago, and we had lived in our house almost 23 years.
I'm sure you had a lot of stuff.
Yes. And we were walking out the door thinking, okay, goodbye house. And I look up and I'm like, oh, wow, that clock is still on the wall because it had been there for 15 years, and I didn't even notice it anymore. So I think that's one thing is you just don't notice how many things you have. So it's hard to know what to take away, what to keep out to make it not look, too naked or something. But also too, like if you have pets and stuff, you're kind of used to how your house smells. And that doesn't necessarily mean it smells good.
That's a hard conversation as a listing agent. Say, hey, like your house is nice, but like it smells like a dog in here.
Yep. And of course, that's not the first words that you want to have come out of your mouth either as a stager. But I mean, once you've gone through the house with an hour or two with them and they've now bought into the idea of what all they need to do, then it's kind of nice at the end to be able to say, oh, there's one more thing that I've noticed or whatever. Yeah, let's have the discussion about how it feels when you first walk in. And that's not just how it looks, but how it might smell. We wanted to have a nice, pleasant aroma, not an odor, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you obviously work with a lot of agents, but what would you say as an agent or a home buyer, what do they need to be looking for in a stager? Should they interview multiple people? What do you recommend in that regard?
Mm-hmm. Well,
I guess an add-on.
Yeah.
What makes a good stager?
So I think it's important to talk to people who've maybe worked with that stager in the past, number one, because referrals are everything, right? Another thing is check their portfolio. So if they have a website or even a Facebook page where you can check out maybe what they've done, and maybe some testimonials where people have worked with them and, online through Google or whatever, Facebook or something like that. That's important. You can go onto Real Estate Staging Association and you can find a stager and then go to Texas and then kind of go to our area. And you can find people who've at least been certified. And then that you can click on their link if they've got a website or something, and then you can find them that way.
Awesome. So is there a sweet spot for your type of services that you would say, where you would really feel like you fall in that can really help? Is there a price point, a size? I know furnished homes, obviously, is how your priority. But is there like a certain area where you feel like your services are best utilized? Do you find homeowners taking advantage and using what you tell them?
Yeah. I've done everything from about $150,000 up to about 1.3 million. My sweet spot is usually, I would say, 300 to 700,000. Sometimes the higher priced homes, the people want to get, they know they want to get their money out of their house. And I would say sometimes those homeowners will buy into it a little bit more than, say, the $200,000 home. They see the value in it more. But I truly believe any house can really benefit from staging, whether that's a DIY staging.
Oh, we were thinking, I kind of want you to just come over and tell my wife we have too much stuff.
Let me be the bad guy.
I got a designer coming over. Just give her a list of all the things and they go.
And then she'll transfer that list straight to you and go, hey, this is what we're doing this weekend.
So like kind of best tips that you could give people. There are some people that are first time owner or do it by themselves. What are the best, like your top 3 things that you would start out addressing if they didn't want to utilize you, which they should.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, I love that, because I think anytime, like if you're listening to a podcast or you're watching a video or you're reading an article, there should be some kind of takeaway for free that you can have that's meaningful. So I'll give you 3. One is the depersonalizing. So like I was talking about the photos. So anything like regular photos or something with your name on it. Some people have diplomas and certificates and medals and big words like, we were married, we're established in 2010 or something everywhere. I would say go ahead and pack that. Secondly, everyone says this, but it's declutter, right? So anything smaller than a cantaloupe is going to look like clutter. It just is. So if you have to have, all those things on your countertop, then put them in a basket, where it looks like one bigger thing instead of, 25 little things. So that's number 2. And then the third thing I would say is lighting. I could give you 10, but 3.
Give me one.
3 is lighting for sure. A lot of people, they have light bulbs in one fixture that are different colors. Some are blue and some are orange. I know we all are. But so I would say get LED lighting, get it brighter in your houses, and lighting has to do with things on your windows too. So if you have, curtains or valances or something that have been up there for, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, maybe take those off and maybe go with some shears or something so it's not so dark in the houses. But those are big things. I'll give a bonus is a lot of people have too much furniture. And so the traffic flow going through the houses, it's just a little
walking around.
Yeah, because you need 3 feet of walkway space everywhere through your house. And if you're down to, 18 inches somewhere, it's kind of tight filling. So there you go.
And just some advice to, if any agents are listening, it's worth the money to have someone come out, because sometimes it's really hard presenting numbers or presenting what the potential of a house is without giving someone that can really get that house to the full potential. I'm not an ultra creative, so it really helps me to have resources like you, because my mind thinks differently than what you guys can see. So I think it's great. So kind of one of the things I've wrapped, I know you don't live in Fort Worth, but you live in Arlington. But one of the questions I ask everybody is, we could change it. What do you love living in, I say, what do you love most about living in Fort Worth? But what do you love about Fort Worth and just living in this metroplex here in DFW?
Mm-hmm. So I grew up in Arlington, like we talked about earlier, but I do love Fort Worth. My son and daughter-in-law live in Fort Worth. That's one reason. But beyond that, some things that I love are, it's so welcoming. I mean, there are other cities, large cities nearby that don't feel as welcoming to me. And I love the cultural area here, the Bass Hall and the museums and the parks. And give me a good restaurant with a patio, and I love that.
And we're finally getting into some weather where we can use it.
Exactly. And like the stock show, and I don't know, there's tons of things I love about Fort Worth. And, Arlington, I love that too, all the entertainment district that's there. But Arlington, for me, more it's just about my family and my memories there, where Fort Worth is kind of like a destination town, and I really like that.
Shana, thank you so much for coming in. If anybody wanted to get a hold of you to ask more questions, how could they reach you?
So I have a website, at www.cloverlanedesign.com. Also, they can email me at Shana at cloverlanedesign.com.
And I'll post it in the comments when we post it up.
Because the way to spell my name sounds totally different than how it looks, right?
Yeah, I had to make sure.
Or they can call me. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, and LinkedIn.
Every so.
Yes, ever social.
Well, thank you again for coming in. This was another episode of Real Talk with Reside Real Estate. If we could be a resource at all, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you.